All right. Hey, good morning, everybody. I'm so sorry for the wait this morning. It has been a bit of a hectic morning. But it's good to be together. And it is Thursday morning, February the 6th, 2025. And we are going to continue in our Torah portion today. We're going to be in Exodus, very famous passage. We're going to go ahead and read through the whole of this passage today. To be honest, I've been going through it. I didn't. There was a lot here, but I didn't get as much of the prep for it as I wanted. But that's okay. I mean, we're going to just be in the Word and approach it devotionally today. Hope that's okay. We are in Parsha Beshalach, which means and when he sent them out. When he let them go. And the title of today's Daily Manna is Don't Fear, Stand Firm, Watch, and Be Still. Don't fear, stand firm, watch, and be still. And so in Exodus 11, as we mentioned yesterday, Exodus 11:10, it says, So Moses and Aaron did all these wonders before Pharaoh, yet Adonai hardened Pharaoh's heart, so he did not let the children of Israel go out of his land. So Pharaoh didn't let them go. So after 9 plagues, after all of this, he still wouldn't let them go. But the beginning of this portion is after Pharaoh had let them go, and what happened in between was the Passover. So let's begin in Exodus 13:17. After Pharaoh had let the people go, God did not lead them along the road to the land of the Philistines, although that was nearby. For God said the people might change their minds if they see war and return to Egypt. So right out of the gate, what we see now, we've got a map here we can look at. We're going to kind of take a look here. So hopefully this will fill the screen large enough where you can see it. If you look up at the top, you see where the dot starts over by Pithom and Sukkot, Goshen, right? This is where they began. The way to Israel would have been really fast going up to the way of the Philistines, to where Gaza is. That would have been the short path. That was the way that was close. But the Lord didn't lead them that way. The Lord led them down into the desert. He led them a long way and then leads them to a dead end. Right? The Lord leads them. He leads them, and we can, down to where you see Migdol, Pi-Hahiroth. He leads them down to a dead end, to the what we call the Red Sea or the Sea of Reeds. That's the place that, the Lord didn't lead them in the easy way. He didn't take them the path of least resistance. He took them the long way. I was reading somewhere here. Hold on a second. I wanted to pull this up. A Jewish biblical scholar had written this. You can, I don't know if you're still on the map, but you can leave the map. It was interesting to me. He said Israel's redemption from Egyptian bondage was not an end in itself, nor was the destruction of Pharaoh's military forces, nor even the occupation of Canaan. He says the only real goal was the proclamation of God's law at Sinai. There, Israel would become God's people, and then Israel would make God's law a reality in their land. This was the real reason for Israel not being led by the direct route to Canaan, but through the Sea of Reeds. The fear that Israel might become cowardly when faced with an enemy, so that they might have returned to Egypt, was an additional reason for the circuitous route. And so what this rabbi is saying, this biblical scholar is saying, if you go back to the map, if you look, when they cross over there, that's where Mount Sinai is, down at the bottom. The Lord brings them over there and then down to this place, Mount Sinai. And they're going to be at Sinai for a lengthy period of time, right? The Lord is, okay, you can leave the map now, but the Lord has said, I'm going to take you out of Egypt. I'm going to bring you to myself, and then I'm going to bring you into a land, right, flowing with milk and honey. So this was in Exodus chapter 6, right? This is the good news. I'm going to bring you out of Egypt. I'm going to bring you to myself, and then I'm going to bring you into a land. So first he's going to bring them out of Egypt. And the way out is not the way that they would have intended, and he's going to bring them to himself. And so they're going to be at Mount Sinai for a long time because up until this point, they have had no instructions, right? Again, there is no written word. There's no written instruction, no written Torah, no 10 Commandments, none of it. They've had none of that up to this point, just the promises of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And so now the Lord is going to take them to himself and to form us into the people that he called us to be, so that through the children of Abraham, Isaac, and Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, that all the nations of the world, all the families of the world would be blessed. So the goal was, now I'm going to give you the Torah. This is how you're going to live and move and have your being. This is how you're going to interact with one another. This is what justice will look like. This is what family relations will look like. This is how you're to treat one another. This is how you're to treat the outsider. This is how you're to treat the poor. This is how you're to treat the stranger in your midst. This is the way you're to interact. This is those who, this is how you're going to even... So you have all of these interpersonal relations that you're going to look at. Then there's going to be the sacrificial system, and this is how you're going to interact with the Lord, and this is how this is going to work. And you won't even understand all of it, but it's all pointing towards something, right? So the Lord is going to be giving all of these instructions, but they can't begin to understand that he's setting us free, not just for ourselves, but because he has a purpose in mind. He's setting us free because he wants to ultimately, he's going to give us the law written on tablets of stones at this point, but ultimately we then find out in Jeremiah 31 that there's a new covenant, not written on tablets of stone, but written on the tablets of our heart, that he wants to inscribe upon our hearts. That ultimately he wants to write his word upon us so that we can shine it out, to make him known, to make his character known to the nations. That's what God is doing. That's the heart of God in all of this. This is a picture of what he's doing. All right, well, let's continue. He's saying they might change their minds. If they see war, they might change their minds and return to Egypt, right? This is not an unfounded concern. How many times, as we'll see as we're in the desert, that we go to turn back and say, I want to go back to Egypt. So God led the people around by the way of the wilderness to the Sea of Reeds, or Yam Suf. It was later, we have it being called the Red Sea, because in the Septuagint, the Greek translation, it was translated as the Red Sea, and that was already in place even by the time of Yeshua being called the Red Sea. But it was the Sea of Reeds. It had all of these reeds, and but we call it the Red Sea, the Sea of Reeds. It says, and the children of Israel went up out of the land of Egypt. Now here the translation says armed. And they're not armed as much as they're in an organized fashion, almost like marching up, as in organized for war. It's not necessarily that they're armed. Verse 19, Moses also took the bones of Joseph with him, for he had made the children of Israel swear on oath, saying, God will surely remember you. Literally, he says, God will attend to you. He will meet with you. That word pakad, often translated as he will judge you, but that's not what he's saying. He will attend to you. He's going to meet with you. God will meet with you. He will meet with you. He says it repeatedly here. And then you're to carry my bones away with you. So Joseph knew, the dreamer, Joseph, who had these dreams, prophetic dreams, understood that there was a time that they would go up from the land. God would remember. God would meet with them. God was going to certainly do so. And at that time, you're to carry my bones with you. And that fulfilled the promise of Genesis 50:25. It was, and the thing that is, when you stop and you think about this whole, everything that's going on, the Passover, everyone's preparing to go, be ready to go in haste. The Passover is this is the Lord's Passover. That Moses, everyone's kind of in this hurried exodus, but he undertook the task, this loving memorial, this remembrance. He had his own details to deal with, but he took the task to gather Joseph's bones. So Joseph's not mummified. Joseph was buried or his bones were, in whatever way they were, he gathered them. And just as Joseph had done, had acted similarly in Genesis 50 verse 5 for his act and doing his own father's command. And so they're bringing the bones. It says, so they journeyed from Sukkot. Of course, Sukkot meaning tabernacles, tents. And so this could also be pointing to the way that that they're going to be camping. They journeyed from Sukkot, and they camped on the edges of the wilderness. Verse 21. Adonai went before them in a pillar of cloud, literally in a standing cloud, it says. Literally in a standing cloud to lead the way, and in a pillar of fire by night to give them light, so they could travel both day and night. The pillar of cloud by day and the pillar of fire by night never departed from the people. Never departed from them. So you see that how much wouldn't we love to just have the Lord make it that clear as to where we're supposed to walk? Lord, can you just give me a cloud by day and a fire by night, and just shine it, make it obvious, make it obvious for me that I can see, Lord, what you're doing. And so the Lord is not leading them in the easy way. He's leading them actually to this place of crisis. He's leading them to a place where they're going to freak out. They don't know it at the moment. They don't know. They've never left the area. They don't know where they're going. Everything's been in Goshen for centuries now. And so now they're on their way, and they don't understand. They don't know exactly where the Lord is leading them to. All right. Chapter 14. Adonai spoke to Moses, saying, speak to the children of Israel so that they turn back and encamp before Pi Hahiroth, between Migdol and the sea. You are to camp by the sea, opposite Baal Zephon. So again, take a look at the map there, and you'll see on that map, down at the bottom, you see Migdol and Pi Hahiroth. And so it's that area. It's interesting to me, and I didn't see yet anything about this, but I will say that when I was looking at the Hebrew, you're going to amp it. You're going to camp opposite or in the face of, because opposite is before or to the face of Baal Zephon, and literally Baal Zephon means like hidden Lord, the master who is hidden. And so there is this imagery where the place where he's having them camp is the Lord that they can't see. Whether Baal Zephon was the name of an actual place or became the name of the place, but in that language, Baal Zephon meaning hidden master, hidden Lord, that he would show up for them. And the Lord knows this. He says, Pharaoh will say concerning the children of Israel, they're wandering aimlessly in the land. The wilderness has shut them in. So he thinks they don't know where they're going. He knows they don't know where they're going. They've never been able to leave. He didn't even let them. They just wanted to go 3 days into the wilderness to serve the Lord. He wouldn't let them go. He said, you can stay in the land. So he knows they don't know where they're going. And the Lord knows he says that. So the Lord is drawing Pharaoh out, just honestly knowing the arrogance in Pharaoh's heart, knowing that his heart hasn't changed. If I just lead them down this way, he's going to think that he can come get them back. And so verse 4 says, I will harden Pharaoh's heart. I will make it strong or stubborn. So he will follow after them. And again, like we talked about last week, the question of a hardening of his heart is just in the very action of, rather than leading them on the quick path, leading them out in a way that would give Pharaoh the idea that, I'm going to go get him back. Like the Lord he knows how Pharaoh will respond. He says, then I will be glorified. Then I will be exalted. I will be glorified or honored over Pharaoh along with all his army. And the Egyptians will know that I am Adonai. Right? So it will be known who I am. Again, that he's shown all along, here's who I am. I am the Lord. I am the Lord. I am the Lord. And so that's what they did. They went that direction. When the king of Egypt was told, so now it comes to pass, verse 5, when the king of Egypt was told that the people had fled, Pharaoh and his servants had a change of heart. Right? It says their hearts were transformed. They were changed toward the people, and they said, what have we done? What is this we have done that we let Israel go from serving us? Right? So when all of a sudden it occurs to them, we can go get them. Let's go get him. So he prepared his chariots and took his people with them. Verse 7, he took 600 of his finest chariots along with all the other chariots of Egypt and captains over them. So they're all of them, all their chariots. And so they're going to go a whole lot faster. Verse 8, Adonai hardened the heart of Pharaoh, king of Egypt. So he pursued the children of Israel, for the children of Israel went out with a high hand. Right? They went out, it says, with a hand exalted. But the Egyptians pursued them with all the horses and chariots of Pharaoh, as well as his charioteers and his army, and overtook them as they were encamped by the sea beside Pi-hahiroth, opposite Baal Zephon. Verse 10, when Pharaoh drew near, the children of Israel lifted up their eyes, and behold, the Egyptians were marching after them. So they were greatly afraid, or they feared greatly. They were terrified. The children of Israel cried out to Adonai. They said to Moses, have you taken us away to die in the wilderness because there were no graves in Egypt? Why have you dealt with this way with us to bring us out of Egypt? What have you done to us? In this moment, they're furious. They're afraid, but that fear is coming out in anger. They're upset at what Moses seemingly has done. What, were there no graves in Egypt? Why did you do this to us? I mean, there were no graves. So why did you bring us here? And that fear is coming out in complaining, and their enemy is in pursuit. They are in crisis. This is the Pharaoh's here. The enemy is here. He's here to destroy us. It looks like, what, Lord, did you set us free for this, for a dead end, for destruction? And our desire in that moment is that the Lord will just give us an easy way out. Sometimes in a difficult situation, we want to blame it all on the enemy. God would never want us to face this difficulty. It must be the enemy. Right? Couldn't possibly be the will of God. Right? But God had led them this way. There was a shorter way. And it says God didn't lead them along the road that led the way to the Philistines, although it was closer. The Lord led the people to this dead end. Right? This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't a wrong turn. It was interesting when I was reading through this this one commentary that the rabbi says that he says that he doesn't think the people could see the cloud, the pillar of cloud by day and the fire by night, that it was something that Moses spiritually understood, because he was trying to describe. He's saying, otherwise, if they could see it, it doesn't make any sense why that they kept wanting to turn back. They could see that Moses is leading them here, just following the cloud by day and the fire by night. So he's trying to explain away why they would want to turn back. Well, they couldn't have seen the cloud and the fire, but I believe they absolutely could see the cloud and the fire. They saw the other plagues. For crying out loud, they see the Red Sea, the Sea of Reeds. They see it split and still want to go back. So to suggest that, well, they can see all these things, but if they could see the cloud and the fire, that they wouldn't turn back. Sometimes God can give us miraculous signs, and we still want to do it our way. We let fear and anxiety rule us. We fail to trust. Right? That's the thing that, when Abraham, the Lord called Abraham righteous because of his trust. Abraham believed the Lord, and the Lord credited it to him as righteousness in Genesis 15. But even already here, there's a short memory about God's faithfulness. I mean, they've seen the signs of God. They've seen the Nile turn to blood. They've seen the frogs and the locusts and the livestock, the hail. Moses, the weatherman, is telling them what's coming, and it happens over and over. They got no idea where they're going here. They're actually, as far as they're concerned, they're done for. Pharaoh's got them. But are they actually vulnerable? If they focus on the army, yeah. But if they remember who brought them here, did they really need to worry? Right? They're worried. They didn't trust God because they had already forgotten what he had done. Right? So they're complaining. They're angry. And they say, verse 12, didn't we say to you in Egypt, abandon us, leave us, forsake us, let us alone, so that we can serve our captors, so that we can serve those of our bondage, we can serve the Egyptians. It was better for us to serve the Egyptians than die in the wilderness. We'd rather live in slavery knowing than to be in this place where I'm about to die. I preferred the life of slavery than the life of not knowing, of not feeling like I know what's next. And you could actually look and say, sometimes, the Lord calls us to die to ourselves. If anyone would come after me, he must deny himself, take up his cross, and follow me. That if you want to find your life, you'll lose it. If you lose your life for my sake, you'll find it. And he promises us that. And yet we want to go back to Egypt at times because at least it's predictable, rather than dying daily to my flesh. It would have been better, they said, to serve the Egyptians than to die in the wilderness. But Moses said to the people, don't be afraid. Tira, don't be afraid. Take your stand. Stand still. He says it's a word for resist, like stand firm. And watch the Yeshua of Adonai. Watch the salvation of Adonai, which he will do, he will perform for you today. You have seen the Egyptians today, but you will never see them again, ever. Adonai will do battle for you. Adonai will fight for you while you hold your peace. And that word for hold your peace is while you stand still, while you become silent, while you hush. And that's really what the Lord is saying here. They're there. They're camped out. They're camped out at the sea. And Pharaoh, the Pharaoh is not going to let them go easily. And so here he's charging, and you think about the charging. They've got the 600 of their best chariots with all of the other chariots of the thunder, the fear, the sound of this army coming at them, the noise that is rattling them. Like in that moment, you put yourself in their position, and they're like, "What have you done? Why are we here? What have we done? You should have left us there. We're dead." And in the natural, their complaint is absolutely rational and reasonable, right? But accept what they've already seen. The Lord did this, 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 this. And now, it's what have you done for me lately, rather than holding on to the faithfulness of God. They're like, you're coming out, you're bringing us out here to kill us. Adonai will fight for you. Shh, he says. While you just stay still. You stay inactive. Keep still. Then Adonai said to Moses, "Why are you crying to me? Tell the children of Israel, go forward. Lift up your staff, stretch out your hand over the sea, and divide it. Then the children of Israel will go into the midst of the sea on dry ground. And behold, I will harden the hearts of the Egyptians, and they will go in after them. So I will be glorified over Pharaoh and all his army, his chariots, and his horsemen." Again, the madness of the thing that you see with Pharaoh is what happens as we continually harden our hearts to the things of God. God calls us to a place of obedience. He calls us to a place of obedience. Let go. And we don't let go, or we let go a little bit, or just make a show of it. And then go, no, I'm not going to. And the consequences keep getting worse. But rather than softening, rather than submitting, rather than becoming tender, become more stubborn, exalt ourselves, glorify ourselves over and over, and you change along the way. To the point where you're so dug in, so proud, that Pharaoh's at this place where he's like, I'm going to get them. And so that when the sea opens and they walk on dry ground, he doesn't say, all right, all right, you know what? There you can go. This is, I lose, you win. You win. No, he goes, no, I'm going after him. And the Lord knows that's the condition of his heart. He knows this is what's going to happen. Then the angel of Adonai, who went before the camp of Israel, moved and went behind them. Also the pillar of cloud moved from in front and stood behind them. So this pillar of cloud is, the glory of the Lord is visible in this way, in a way that divides, that keeps the Egyptians from them. And so there came between the camp of Egypt and the camp of Israel, there was a cloud and a darkness over here, yet it gave light by night over there. Neither one came near the other all night long. And Moses stretched out his hand over the sea. Adonai drove the sea back with a strong east wind throughout the night and turned the sea into dry land. So the waters were divided. And the children of Israel went into the midst of the sea on dry ground, while the waters were like walls to them on their right and their left. The Egyptians pursued and went in after them into the midst of the sea, all Pharaoh's horses, his chariots, and his horsemen. Yet it came about during the morning watch that Adonai looked at the army of the Egyptians through the pillar of fire and cloud and caused the army of the Egyptians to panic. He took off their chariot wheels and caused them to drive heavily, so that the Egyptians said, "Get away from the presence of Israel, for Adonai fights for them against the Egyptians." And then Adonai said to Moses, "Stretch out your hand over the sea, so that the waters come back upon the Egyptians over their chariots and their horsemen." So Moses stretched his hand out over the waters, and the sea returned to its strength at the break of dawn. The Egyptians were fleeing from it, but Adonai overthrew them in the midst of the sea. The waters returned and covered the chariots, the horsemen, and the entire army of Pharaoh that went after them into the sea. Not one of them remained. But the children of Israel had walked on dry land in the midst of the sea, and the waters were like walls to them on their right hand and their left. So Adonai saved Israel that day out of the hand of the Egyptians. And Israel saw the Egyptians dead on the seashore. When Israel saw the great work that Adonai did over the Egyptians, the people feared Adonai, and they believed in Adonai and in his servant Moses, at least for a moment. At least for a moment. And that what ends up continually being revealed, the Lord will bring us to a place where he wants us to learn to trust in him, and he brings us to this crisis so that he can reveal what he is going to do, that he is trustworthy. He says, don't be afraid. Stand firm, right? Watch and be still. Don't be afraid. Stand firm. Watch and be still. Over and over, we say, well, I want to go back to Egypt. I want to go back to what I understand, where we end up being idolizing predictability. Let God do what only God do. God calls us to a place of trust. He calls us to a place of waiting on him, not panicking. A lot of people are panicking. They're walking around in total anxiety because they don't know what's around the corner. I don't know what's around the corner either. But keep your eyes on the Lord. He goes before you. He goes behind you. He is your rear guard. He is the one who does exactly what he said he would do. It's just he doesn't do it in the way that you thought he would do it, or in the way that you thought that you would have said, let's go the way of the Philistines, right? But he knows better. He knows what he wants to do in us and through us. Here, don't fear. Stand firm. Watch and be still. Whatever you're facing, you're overwhelmed with anxiety. I got to do this. I got to do this. I got to do that. Shh. Don't fear. Stand firm. Watch and be still. We want to fix it all ourselves. God helps those who helps themselves. Actually, God helps the helpless. Don't fear, stand firm, watch and be still. He's allowed you to find yourself in this cul-de-sac, led you to this dead end, but he won't abandon you. He won't forsake you. Whatever you're facing, he brought his people through with purpose. There's something he wanted to bring them to, where he was going to reveal himself to them, to teach them, to instruct them, that they could shine forth his light. He wants to bring you through this, to work in you, to shine through you, so that you can shine forth his light. Amen? Don't fear. Stand firm, watch and be still. Watch the Yeshua, the salvation of Adonai. Amen? All right, well, sorry again for the late start today. Shalom, shalom. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. Shalom, shalom. Have a beautiful day.